You've heard about the sacred chickens. Well, about 5 if you have. It wasn't very popular, but I don't care because it's a fun story. But what if I told you about the giant whale who waged a solo war against the Byzantine Empire's trade routes for half a century, and annoyed the Emperor Justinian so much that he demanded the whale's capture? It's time for the tale of Porphyrios. Now, you may remember a couple of years ago stories about killer whales attacking yachts and other ships. A lot of greenies put it down to whales getting a bit back on humans, which, I mean, let's face it, kind of been rude to whales for a time now. But there are, over the course of human history, some quite famous instances of whales attacking humans. Particularly, we have the incredible story and real-world inspiration for Herman Melville's iconic book Moby Dick. I am, of course, talking about the horrific and legendary tale of the Essex, a whaling ship that set out from Nantucket under the command of Captain George Pollard Jr., before being destroyed far from land in the middle of nowhere by a sperm whale. The crew of the Essex would struggle back to land, many of them dying and being cannibalised by the crew who had no other option to survive. This story, of course, is somewhat straight from the horror book for sailors, stuck far from home and being hunted by a beast from below. But what if I told you about a whale who was so filled with rage that he swam up to the capital of the most powerful empire in Europe, and he just started blasting? Following the fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476 AD, the centre of Roman power had shifted naturally to Constantinople, and truth be told, it wasn't the worst thing for the Eastern Romans. The West had long fallen into decline over the last few centuries of Roman rule, racked with constant invasion, famine, and civil war. It was a complete mess, and the Eastern Roman Empire managed to thankfully extract itself from that toxic relationship, and was recovering quite strongly, as the 5th century gave way to the 6th. During the reign of Justinian, the empire would actually regain many of the territories of the former Western Empire, and although we know now that these wars of conquest weren't the smartest thing to do, through hindsight, at the centre of this great empire was the city of Constantinople, the New Rome, at the border between Europe and Asia. This city was vital to trade and the maintenance of imperial power, through the sea routes forming a vital piece in this puzzle. The Byzantines were enjoying what can be described in many ways as a Roman Renaissance, but in the middle of these happy times, there was a sea demon waging a one-sea creature war against the empire. Just quickly though, you may be wondering why I keep saying Eastern Roman and Byzantine. Well, for those who don't know, they are the exact same thing. See, the Eastern Romans and the Western Romans never called themselves Western or Eastern Roman. They were simply Romans. These terms are inventions of historians, and it's simply a case of us compartmentalizing history to make it easier to understand. If I said the Romans, simply then you'd have to think about a period between 750 BC and 1453 AD. It's quite extensive. But if I say Byzantines, well, I'm clearly referring between 457 AD and 1453, a long time span, but a far shorter one than the one I mentioned first. The first mention of this demonic whale comes from the writings of the 6th century Byzantine historian Procopius in 2 works, The History of Wars and The Secret History. According to Procopius, the whale measured around 13.7 metres or 45 feet long. The ancient Greeks weren't entirely the most knowledgeable on whales, and this giant creature in many ways was seen as a bit of a monster. Out of nowhere one day, all manner of ships began to report being attacked, and sometimes sunk by a large sea monster, everything from small fishing boats to large warships. The people dubbed this sea monster Porphyrios, or Porphyrion, or Porphyri, or Porphyrio. I've seen all of these terms, I don't know, the origin's pretty unclear. But what is clear is the name is derived from the contemporary Porphyrios, so we'll go with Porphyrios. The name in many ways was a term of respect, and given from fear, as it was after the mythical giant Porphyrion, who waged a war against the gods of Greek mythology. Another historian has suggested that the name was given as a reference to the imperial purple, the darker colour of the whale, hinting that it may have been an orca. But some sources say it was a sperm whale. Either way, the name was Porphyrios. Or Porphyrion, or whatever. Porphyry something. Porphyrios would disappear for years on end, only to suddenly show up and just destroy a large ship inside of a trade route, forcing all the vessels in the area to scatter, and rerouting the entire empire's trade. According to legend, Porphyrios would just appear from nowhere, charging down and breaking the backs of ships, leaving no survivors and just debris. To quote Jack Sparrow, no survivors. Where do the stories come from, I wonder? After annihilating some ships, he would just disappear and stalk for a while before appearing again and repeating the process. According to writers, Emperor Justinian was absolutely furious at this whale and vowed that something must be done at all costs to stop him from attacking any more ships, wanting him taken alive to show the empire that he was favoured by the gods or something, I don't know. Most likely just to make people relax a bit about the giant murderfish killing people from multiple generations. Justinian, and this one's a bit hazy because it's mired in fiction and storytelling, allegedly had his court cock up harebrained schemes Wallace and Gromit style to capture this particularly angry fish, but nothing worked. For over 50 years, this whale absolutely tormented the Byzantine sea routes and destroyed at least a confirmed 15 ships, and nothing could stop him. That is until one fateful day. One day, Porphyrios decided that destroying ships wasn't fun anymore, and he decided to pulverize some dolphins. Sea creatures are weird. Anywho, dolphins being dolphins and being the proper asses of the sea tricked Porphyrios into beaching himself in the shallows near the mouth of the Black Sea. The whale struggled and struggled, but only sank deeper into the mud. The locals, recognizing that this was the murderfish, formed a mob and with axes and ropes set to just hacking the whale apart, dragging him up the beach and cutting him into little pieces. The attackers would then allegedly feast on the meat of the whale, some even doing it raw sushi style. According to Procopius, the death of the whale was a godsend to the general public, who had lived in abject fear, held effectively in Stockholm Syndrome by attack every time they dared put to sea by this one whale. But the legend of Porphyrios was such that many feared they'd simply just killed a different whale, and that the legendary whale still remained at large and would just be a matter of years until he returned, just like he had many times before. Porphyrios, well, he's been mentioned many times in literature, both in fiction and non-fiction. He appears in the work of Edward Gibbon, who I have opinions on. Gibbon alludes to the possibility of it all just being a tall tale of the sea, and then he also goes into a spiel about God and some other Enlightenment crap. Whatever, it's the Enlightenment was a mistake. He also appears in Herman Melville's Moby Dick in that fictional story that I mentioned earlier. There's even a period drama novel about the General Belisarius attacking the whale with harpoons and arrows. Now this is the one that shows up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, pick your poison of social media, and it explains how Belisarius and the Empress and the Emperor all acted about the whale and trying to capture and kill the whale. It's a complete fiction. None of that actually is confirmed to have happened at all. That is a work of the 1930s and it's a fictional novel, so when you catch this story next time on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, just keep in mind a lot of these, oh my god, look at this amazing history fact, it's actually from a novel in the 1930s, and that happens quite a lot. Anywho, I hope you enjoyed the tale of the giant Byzantine murderfish. And I'm aware these aren't as popular, these little bite-sized animal crazy history ones, but they're a lot of fun to make, and it's pure stupid trivia nonsense. So, like, comment, subscribe, talk to me in the Discord, don't ping me. I'll see your message, don't worry, and I will catch you all next time.